Silent Hill 2 is a heartwarming tale of a man named James Sunderland, who receives a completely normal, not at all suspicious letter from his dead wife, Mary. Instead of immediately questioning the supernatural logistics of postal services beyond the grave, James does what any rational person would do. He packs his things and heads straight to Silent Hill, a town famous for its thriving fog industry and highly aggressive tourism board. Upon arrival, James notices that the entire town appears to be abandoned, save for a few disturbingly friendly monsters and some fellow visitors who all seem to have deep-seated personal problems. Rather than turning around and going home like a sane person, he decides to push forward, wandering aimlessly through a series of increasingly questionable locations, including an apartment complex that makes a cockroach infestation seem like a minor inconvenience, a hospital with a nurse staff that seems really into interpretive dance, and a hotel that doubles as an immersive psychological trauma simulator. James's journey is guided by the occasional helpful NPC. First, there's Angela, a woman who is one therapy session away from setting the whole town on fire. She alternates between cryptic warnings and tragic backstory reveals while standing next to ominously placed knives. Then there is Eddie, a guy whose solution to every problem is violence, cheeseburgers, and insane laughter. Laura, a suspiciously cheerful child, keeps showing up to remind James that he's a terrible person, before skipping away like some kind of horror movie Omen and pigtails. And of course, we can't forget Maria, who looks exactly like James's dead wife, but with a personality that screams questionable life choices. She exists purely to confuse James, flirt with him, and die repeatedly in increasingly traumatic fashions, which James reacts to with all the emotional depth of a soggy piece of bread. Then there's the town mascot, Pyramid Head. If Silent Hill had a football team, this guy would be the star quarterback. He stomps around menacingly, waves an oversized knife like he's compensating for something, and occasionally stops to do things so disturbing that even the fog tries to pretend it didn't see anything. He chases James around, seemingly for sport, while embodying every repressed guilt and violent impulse in James's troubled little mind. As James roams Silent Hill looking for answers, he encounters various puzzles that make little to no sense. To progress, he must complete tasks, such as sticking his hand in disgusting holes, rearranging coins in a way that no rational human would think to, and decipher clues that seem intentionally designed to frustrate the player. The town's architects were clearly big fans of escape rooms, but hated the idea of anybody actually escaping. Silent Hill 2 also blesses us with an iconic soundtrack, composed entirely of music that sounds like it was made with an oven. The atmosphere is further enhanced by a camera system that moves like it's controlled by a drunk ghost, and controls that simulate the experience of guiding a malfunctioning shopping cart through an abandoned mall. Silent Hill's local economy also relies heavily on item placement logic that can only be described as chaotic at best. Health drinks are conveniently scattered around the town like someone's preparing for an extreme marathon. Meanwhile, James must dig through bathtubs, toilets, and corpses to find crucial items like keys, because in Silent Hill, home security is based on how willing you are to engage with the grotesque. James's sightseeing tour eventually leads him to discover the shocking truth. Mary didn't die from a tragic illness like he had been telling himself. James himself smothered her, presumably because he took the pillow fight too seriously. Faced with this reality, James reacts with the appropriate amount of, "Oh no, I made a mistake," energy, and is given the chance to pick an ending based on how much self-loathing he managed to accumulate during his trip. Depending on the choices made, James can drown himself in the nearest lake. No lifeguard must have been on duty, and he may have forgotten to wait 30 minutes after eating before jumping in the lake. Drive off into the fog, presumably to make even worse life decisions. Leave the town with Laura, a child who's about to have some very awkward questions about legal guardianship. Decide that none of this happened and live happily ever after with his imaginary wife, because denial is a powerful thing. Get abducted by a dog, because Silent Hill respects the power of absurdity. And in one truly wild scenario, aliens show up to confirm that James's problems truly were an out-of-this-world experience. In the end, Silent Hill 2 teaches us a few valuable life lessons. Always question letters from the deceased, don't follow creepy children into abandoned towns, and most importantly, if you see a 7-foot-tall man in a pyramid-shaped helmet carrying an impractically large knife, maybe you should just stay home instead.